we have John Cleveland. John, what would you say is the single most important issue facing Maine, and what is your plan for dealing with it? You as well have 1 minute.
Thank you very much for that question. I think the most pressing question is that the people in this district and in Maine are struggling to make ends meet and to find decent jobs to support their family. That is something that I've seen for years and have been working on. Way to get better opportunity for individuals is to provide reasonable jobs, provide access to good education so that they can be more upwardly mobile, and to provide access to health care. So I would support increasing the minimum wage in a reasonable way so that individuals can have a little bit more money in their paycheck. I would support providing better access to expanding Maine care so that individuals who currently have no access to health care have an opportunity to have a doctor that can take care of themselves and their family. And I would support continuing our training programs and education programs so that both young people and those who are re-entering the market or changing jobs have the education they need for better employment.
Thank you. And your question, the cost of health care is still on the rise, and even with the introduction of the Affordable Care Act, many Mainers are still not covered by insurance. What is your plan to address that, and why?
I think one of the major ways of addressing that is expanding Maine care. That would provide the opportunity for 70,000 Mainers who currently not only have no health care, but have no access to get health care because of their income situation. It would also save the state $1 million a day by having health care for those individuals, and 3,000 veterans who currently have no access to health care would have an opportunity to have health care as well. I think as more people are covered, the costs to the hospitals are more reimbursed, more people will be employed in that industry, the costs will go down because individuals won't be going into the healthcare system inappropriately, either to emergency care when the emergency wards when they don't need to be there, they need to have their own family doctor, and by getting treated earlier, the costs will go down, the results will be better, and the society will be better, and it will improve the situation for employers whose employees won't be out sick.
Thank you. Now moving on to Guy Desjardins. Guy, what would you say is the single most important issue facing Maine, and what is your plan to deal with it?
Again, staying in our district, in District 22, and the number of people that I've spoken to since January, and knocking on door to door, it's jobs and healthcare. There's no two bigger issues than people have spoken to me about. Welfare reform has come up from time to time. The people today that I've spoken to are worried about how they're going to make ends meet. And I agree with Senator Cleveland. I think we need to be able to move and create jobs. I think we need to be able to improve and increase our minimum wage. To what level, I'm not sure, but it has to be respected, and it has to be within the time. We talk about $10.10 an hour. I don't believe that's a livable wage, to be honest with you, when you look at today's expenses. But it's something that we need to progress on in the next 2 to 3 to 4 years. It's not going to be taken care of anytime soon. We need to create jobs. We need to be able to, when the people vote for bond issues and approve them, they need to be sold, they need to be open, and let those jobs out for those laborers to go out and start working and creating a good living.
Thank you. Your question. A major key to Maine's future includes investing in research and development. This year, questions 4 and 5 on the November ballot includes bonds to invest in this type of effort. Where do you stand on bond issues and why?
I stand on bond issues if we keep a word, we as legislators keep our word to the public, that once those issues, if they're voted up and approved, that they're acted upon in a timely fashion. Approving a bond and having it on hold for 6 months does absolutely nothing to anyone. It is a quick fix in some cases. It doesn't generate long-term jobs. It'll generate short-term jobs, probably 8 months to a year, maybe a little longer. But it's those jobs that keep Maine people working. And we need to be more timely when those bonds are approved.
Thank you. Garrett Mason. Garrett, what is the single most important issue facing Maine and your plan for dealing with it?
I think that definitely Mr. Desjardins and I have been talking to the same people because it is those two issues. It's jobs and it's healthcare. I want to address jobs. you know, I come from a family of small business owners. My dad owns an excavation company in Lisbon, and my grandfather started what is now Marong Volkswagen. It was New Meadows Volkswagen at the time. I've grown up in a family of small business creators. I know what it takes to create jobs. But in Maine, we need to make sure that we're focusing on what we're good at. When I went to school, when I went to college, I originally went to be a kindergarten teacher. And one of the first things that you teach kids is that how to have a worthy self-respect for themselves. Knowing what they're good at, being comfortable in their own skin. Same goes for me. We need to make sure that we're doing what we're good at. I see Matt over there from Linda Bean's Lobster. You know, we're good at lobstering. We need to make sure that that industry is free and able to make decisions. You know, I'm a real estate agent. We need to make sure we're making good decisions to get people in homes. I mean, I think jobs in the economy are the big issue. We need to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to get government out of the way and on the side of small businesses and job creators.
Thank you.
Here, here.
And your question, what is your view on state revenue sharing and its effect on municipal budgets? And should the legislature re-examine Governor LePage's tax cuts in order to fully fund the state's commitments to local education and to allow other revenue sharing?
Giving me 60 seconds to answer that.
Yep.
Okay, I think that first off, I voted to protect revenue sharing. It's very important to my towns. I think that that's something that we need to, if we make a promise, we need to keep it. As far as education goes, I was very happy to see that K-12 education, we've constantly in the past 4 years increased funding to public schools. Public schools are very important. It goes back to a founding of our country. Ben Franklin thought that public education was the cornerstone of society. As I said to you before, I originally went to school to be a kindergarten teacher. I couldn't be more interested in public education. I think, what's the last part of your question? There's 3 questions.
Oh, goodness gracious. And to allow other revenue sharing.
To allow other revenue sharing. I think that we need to keep the promises that we have now before we make new ones.
Thank you. Patty Gagne, what is the single most important issue facing Maine, and what is your plan for dealing with it?
Well, I see the most important issue right now facing Maine is the welfare system. The welfare system is broken. And if something's broken, you fix it. You don't make it bigger. I had an employee that worked with me a few years ago who refused $1 an hour wage because that $1 an hour would have pulled the benefits right out from under her and her 2 children. She was a single mom. If we had a step-off program, if I was giving her $1 more an hour, maybe we take $2 an hour away from the program. So some sort of step-off program to help people get off of welfare. I don't think that we need to create more dependency upon welfare. We need people to be self-sufficient and independent.
Thank you. And your question. Over the last couple of years, Maine has introduced school choice for students and parents, including brick and mortar along with online options. Where do you stand on increasing school choice and why?
That's an excellent question. My husband is a 4th grade teacher at Geiger Elementary. First of all, we need more dollars to go towards education in general. As far as school choice goes, that's what it is. It's a choice. I don't think the government should pay our public tax dollars to go towards private institutions if that is a choice that people make. I think the government should stay out of it, any private sector. We currently, I believe, are funding our school buses to take students to private education. So we're giving that option, which is wonderful. But I think less government spending, we need to make sure our public dollars are going towards public education, and we need to give our teachers a raise.
Thank you. Nate Libby, what is the single most important issue facing Maine, and what is your plan for dealing with it?
As far as our district goes, the city of Lewiston, I've knocked on several thousand doors and talked to many, many people, and the clear #1 issue is the economy. And in my opinion, I don't believe the state is in the business of creating jobs, but I think the state can play a critical part in creating the environment to grow jobs. That means having a predictable regulatory environment. That means having a well-educated workforce. That means having a modern transportation infrastructure. These are the things that I think the state government has a responsibility to invest in and do a better job with. A couple of other areas I think are key to the economic picture. expanding pre-K education. Studies have shown that children who get a pre-K education are much better prepared for a full education, and the red card is up, so thank you.
Thank you. And your question. There has been an emphasis on creating technology-based jobs over the last several years. Would you support creating programs for non-tech-based businesses? Why or why not?
I certainly think we need a mix of different jobs. Call center jobs have certainly benefited this community in particular. But I think we need a diverse set that includes manufacturing jobs that are in the tech field, but also you look at the Pepperell Mill in Lewiston. We're seeing manufacturing jobs coming back that we haven't seen in a long time. I think that we need a mix to provide a stable base that help ensure when we have the next recession that entire industries are not wiped out. So I will end it there.
Thank you. And that concludes the Senate questions for now. Luke Jensen, what would you say is the single most important issue facing Maine, and what is your plan for dealing with it?
Absolutely. Thank you. Excuse me. Well, after talking to voters in my district, it's overwhelming that the voters want substantive welfare reform. We've taken some steps in the right direction, but we need to go further. It's people of all ages, people of all different backgrounds, Republicans, Democrats, unenrolled. You have the senior citizens who have worked hard their entire lives, struggled throughout a lot of it to get to where they are today. They're tired of seeing a system where people don't have to struggle, where they use welfare as a fallback, kind of a plan B instead of a last resort. Young people don't want the government to focus on expanding welfare. They want it to focus on creating an environment where young people can get the jobs they need. But that simply, young people want jobs. They do not want welfare. And of course, there are families with children growing up in the school system. They want their children to know that it's going to take hard work to survive. There's not going to be an easy fallback. And if you're not successful, I mean, you're going to fail and you're going to experience that over time. But you need to learn from that, rebound from that, and that's what makes you a great person. So all in all, substantive welfare reform has effects in a lot of other areas too. It exacerbates the drug problem. It's driving a lot of people out of state. All in all, welfare reform is something that we need, and we need it now.
Thank you. And your question, what do you think is the most important infrastructure investment the state of Maine can make in the next 2 years? Do you support taking advantage of, oh, never mind, just the next 2 years?
As far as infrastructure, I don't have any one particular thing that I think we need to focus on. Obviously, we need to do things to help energy costs. So if there's anything in that realm, I'd certainly be in favor of that. I'm not an expert on the matter. I'm not going to come up here and claim I am. But I'd be more than willing to work with people in the legislature, with my fellow representatives and senators, to come up with a plan to get people what they need, find out what's needed most in the state, and allocate the resources that way so it's spent most effectively. We just need a government that's effective, efficient, and of course, ethical.
Thank you. Michael Joy, what is the single most important issue facing Maine, and what is your plan for dealing with it?
Thank you. In going door to door, I have heard about the welfare. However, the most that I've heard are the insecurity of our seniors, not only within our community, but from what I understand within our state. Maine is one of the oldest states, or probably the oldest states in the nation. And other individuals are coming up to that senior plateau. And therefore, we have to look at what we can do for them. We even have our youngsters that are starting to worry about their future and what will happen when they get to that age group. So for me, in respect to my constituents, I would fight for that when I go to the legislature.
Thank you. And your question. Proficiency-based learning is being instituted at schools across Maine, causing some confusion and worries for students, families, and school officials. What is your plan to support the schools making this a seamless transition and a better option for our children? Or what is your individual plan for improving education in Maine?
Thank you. I'm on the Criminal Justice Committee, so therefore, at this time, I wish I was on the Education Committee. Excuse me. I have 3 of my children, or 2 of my children, and my son-in-law that are teachers. And I think proficiency-based is the thing that is coming. However, I like the idea that it should be on a voluntary basis per district and a proper time to set it up. I think it has a lot of value, and I think, or I believe, that in a few years from now, we'll have to wait at least 5 years or better for that group to come up. We'll have a better idea how the system works. But I think it's a positive role. But the teachers, it's a lot of involvement for the teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Peggy Rotundo, what is the single most important issue facing Maine, and what is your plan for dealing with it?
In this area, and I believe in the entire state, it's economic insecurity. Working families in this community are really struggling regardless of how much money they're making. Seniors are worried about rising property taxes and their ability to stay in their homes. Families are worried about not having health care or having health care that they're afraid they might lose. Families are worried about being able to send their children to college, or students are worried about paying off their loans. These are the issues we need to address. Clearly, creating jobs is very, very important for us. And at this point in time, Maine lags just about all the other states in the nation in terms of job creation. That's been true over the last few years. We've got to turn that around. Education, lowering property taxes, healthcare, these are all issues that I've advocated strongly for, and I'm still eager to continue to advocate for all of them.
And your question. As you are aware, Lewiston residents are voting on the legalization of marijuana this November. What do you believe are the implications of enacting or prohibiting this measure, and why?
I was wondering who was going to get this question. And actually, I'm happy to answer it. I will tell you, as a legislator, I did support the legalization of medical marijuana. I thought that was important. And I have said publicly that at this time I do not support the legalization of recreational marijuana. And if you want to know why, I would reference the discussion that the Lewiston School Committee had with the Lewiston High School Substance Abuse Counselor at their meeting a week before last. The implications for the public health of our youth in this community, particularly middle school and high schoolers, is really significant. And I would encourage everyone to read that report that the Lewiston High School counselor presented to the school committee before they make a decision on this particular issue. But having said that, it's up to the people of Lewiston, and we'll see what happens. Thank you.
Thank you. Leslie Dubois, what is the single most important issue facing Maine, and your plan for dealing with it?
I too have been walking through the district this time, and as well as when I ran for city council, and the area is mixed and divided. They all have their own unique concerns. What it all boils down to is not enough money in their pocket. Too high taxes, not enough jobs, not being able to make ends meet. It's all the almighty dollar that is actually the biggest problem, and how to get it into your pocket. It's not welfare reform as far as making sure the person keeps getting their check if they really don't need it. They need to be worked off the system. To actually create jobs, maybe minimum wage increase, but a gradual increase is definitely needed. How I plan to do that is actually, I got 10 seconds or am I done?
10 seconds.
Okay. Is work with all the legislatures and do that successfully.
Thank you. And your question. What do you believe the state individual income tax rate should be? If you wish to lower it, how would you replace state revenue?
The individual state income
Tax,
tax.
yeah.
And how to replace the revenue? Very good question. I do believe in lowering taxes. I really do need to research that. I do what I do best, is ask questions and listen to the answers, ask more questions, do the research, and that's what I will do. Plain and simple, that's what I have to do.
Thank you. Jerry, What is the single most important issue facing Maine and your plan for dealing with it?
Absolutely agree that it's our economy and jobs. Maine right now is 43rd in the nation in job creation since the economic recovery began. I think people are concerned about that. Up in Augusta, I think we need to put some policies in place that will help spur small business growth. Right here in Lewiston, we see that going on in Lisbon Street. We need to create good paying jobs so that people can take care of themselves, provide for their families. And then we need to invest in their education and their training so that our workforce has the ability to compete for those jobs.
Thank you. And your question. Maine has always struggled attracting and retaining businesses due to energy costs. With reports indicating increased cost again this year, how do you plan to advocate for business on this issue?
Well, I think that over time we need to get off of oil-based energy, but it needs to be a process over time. We should invest in our energy infrastructure. We need a combination of large generators of power and also investment in smaller renewable sources of energy. And over time, we'll get those costs down.
Thank you.